you may be knowing animals possess respiratory molecules or the respiratory pigments to carry oxygen, to transport oxygen from the respiratory organ to different parts of body. Now in the case of human being, you may be familiar with that respiratory molecule or the pigment helpful to carry the oxygen to different parts of body, hemoglobin. And in the same way, in other animals also, even among the invertebrates, there are the respiratory pigments. And accordingly, they may be called hematochromes or hemochromes. You can simply mean it as chrome means color. Heme, here you can mean it as the blood. So the substance which may give color to the blood or the molecule which may give color to the blood as hematochromes or hemochromes. So they may be available both in among the vertebrates as well as invertebrates. And now you see I have given the list of respiratory pigments available among both vertebrates as well as invertebrates. Hemoglobin, hemoerythrin, hemochlorine or chlorochlorine, hemocyanin. So these are the familiar respiratory pigments found among the animals in general, both among the invertebrates and vertebrates. Now here the hemoglobin, that one very familiar, having its metallic component as well as protein component. Not only this, all the respiratory pigments. And here it is called hemoglobin, and the metallic component is iron. So because of the presence of the iron as the metallic component and the polypeptide chains available with it and combining with it to form the whole molecule, hemoglobin molecule, it gives red color to the blood. And hemoerythrin, this also having iron as its metallic component and looks red. Anyway, there would be the difference in the amino acid composition of the protein part. Hemochlorine or chlorochlorine. Why it is called chlorochlorine is, it seems green in color. It gives red color to the blood where it is. Anyway, the metallic component is iron, and the color due to the difference in the polypeptide chain available with the iron component. And one more, hemocyanin. Here the metallic component itself is different, copper. Along with this, there are the polypeptide chains to make it a molecule, an oxygen carrying molecule. And it gives blue-green to the medium where it is. Which is the medium where all these present? All are present in blood, no doubt. Anyway, because of the difference in the amino acid composition and the polypeptide chain, these two give a different color to the blood. That is chlorochlorine. That's why it's called chloro. Chloro basically said to be green in color, like that of that plant green material, chlorophyll, that way. Now here the copper, That's basically gives a blue-green color to this. Now here we can find the animals which may carry these respective respiratory pigments. Now the hemoglobin present with all vertebrates in the sense even you start with fish, even there are the intermediary prochordates and fish, frog, you say the reptiles. A good example is calotes and birds and then mammals, including the human being. And then among the invertebrates, some of the annelids possess the hemoglobin as their respiratory pigment. A well-known annelid having the hemoglobin in its blood is earthworm. Anyway, here itself I want to tell you in what form this hemoglobin may be present in either vertebrate or annelid. Among vertebrates, the hemoglobin present within a cell, that is RBC, that's why it is called red blood corpuscle, within which there are millions of hemoglobin molecules among the vertebrates. So RBC, so the hemoglobin collected within the cells called RBCs. But in the case of invertebrates, even though the molecular structure is similar, it's in a dissolved form in the plasma of the blood. That is the difference in the occurrence of hemoglobin among the vertebrates and invertebrates. Even though the structure of hemoglobin is similar. That's why here we have to mention the difference in its distribution, the form where it would be. So here among the vertebrates it is in a cellular form. It's clumped, collected within a cell cover. But among the invertebrates, even though by structure it is similar, seems to be in a dissolved form in the plasma. Anyway, functionally it does the function of carrying oxygen from the source to the different parts of body through the circulatory vessels. Then a hemoerythrin. These are the pigments available with these marine invertebrates, siphonculids, brachiopods. In addition to the major phyla under the invertebrates, there are certain animals placed under the title called minor phyla. Because of even simply we can state that the number of representatives may be very less. So these are all such groups belonging to minor phyla, siphonculids, brachiopods. And chlorochlorine or hemochlorine available with the annelids, particularly polychaetes. Now here hemoglobin with the oligochaeta. Earthworm belongs to the group Oligochaeta, class Oligochaeta. Here even you might have studied a Nereis as an example of polychaete. And hemocyanin, already we told the cyanin, that stands for the copper component, and available with some of the arthropods and mollusks. Why here importance for giving the prefix some is not all the arthropods and mollusks. So here only some specific groups or animals possess the hemocyanin as their respiratory pigment. So here we have to mention with a prefix some arthropods and mollusk. And in this list for chlorochlorine, I have left using the letter O. So please read it with the O, chlorine, Cruorin. Sorry for the spelling mistake. And then here we have already discussed with hemoglobin, and even in general we can give this explanation. Among the vertebrates, the respiratory pigment is within the cell. Respiratory pigments, millions, so use it in plural. So respiratory pigments present within the cell. Even generally they are called RBC. But even though it's of the same structure and doing the same function, among invertebrates it's in dissolved form. Dissolved form in the sense in the blood, plasma. And in all other invertebrates also, with the different types of respiratory pigment, the respiratory pigments are in dissolved form, not in cellular form as we see in the case of vertebrates. So have this idea of the presence of different types of respiratory pigment and where they are and what the color expressed by this